Well, CIA Director Bill Burns is very careful when he makes any public statements. And I read the transcript of his comments from yesterday. And he said that the intelligence community has begun to collect intelligence that China is considering sending these arms munitions to Russia. And so this is a very clear public signal to China, and I'm sure that there have been private signals as well, that this would be intolerable and there will be consequences to this. And I think what Jake Sullivan was saying by that China would bear responsibility then for some of these war crimes is that China would become a co-belligerent in a war of aggression along with Russia. And so I think the Biden administration is sending a very public signal to China that European security is a core interest, and that's a term that the Chinese are familiar with, a core interest of the United States. And by European security, I mean the territorial integrity and the inviolable sovereignty of all European nations. And so it's quite clear that the Biden administration wants Xi Jinping to know that they would be crossing a line if they came in on the side of the aggressor, and they will bear full responsibility for those actions.
They've been very careful not to specify what they would do, but it's clear they would have to consider sanctions, and so would Europe, so would the NATO countries. And of course, China has huge economic impact as the biggest market for European goods, as well as a huge market for us and financing our debt. So the impact would cause a lot of pain in both Europe and here. Do you think that China is really changing its policy, that this is at the level, the presidential level, in terms of its engagement with Russia?
Well, again, based on what senior U.S. officials have said, I think the Chinese are actively considering it. And I think it's clear that they have not yet made a decision. And what we want to do is to warn them off of that decision now. But I do think that China is trying to figure out how it's going to continue to thread this needle. They feel that there's a special relationship with Russia and with Putin that they're trying to support. But as you point out, there would be global ramifications if they decided to support Russia with lethal arms, not just in terms of sanctions that would come from the United States and Europe, but also, as Jake Sullivan said, it would alienate a large part of the countries around the globe, because now China would be, again, a co-belligerent working with Russia with this brutal and ruthless aggression against a sovereign country. And what signal does that send to others who are concerned that Russia and or China might do the same to them one day?